Hi everyone, this week's art journal prompt is collage. I can't believe that we're at week 40 and I haven't done a collage theme with you. I've done a couple of collage pages, but we haven't actually had it as a prompt. Now I want to do a vintage themed collage. I've been collecting various vintage themed items. You know, going back a few months ago, I sort of said that vintage really wasn't my thing, but I just love it. I've just got the bug for it and I've been collecting various vintage bits and bobs as the months have gone by. So I want to try and incorporate some of this into a collage. I'm using my normal piece of mixed media paper, which is 7 by 7.5, and I've torn the edges just using my metal ruler. So it's 7 inches across by 7.5 inches down. And I want to try and incorporate some of these bits and pieces that I've got here. Now, let me just give you some tips. A lot of people are terrified of doing collage, and don't be. Try not to overcomplicate it. My advice to you is pick a theme, be it vintage or a colour theme, and try and stick to that. So for instance, here you can see that all of my pages, the bits and pieces that I've got here already look lovely before I've even done anything with them, because they're all similar colours, and you can just see that they're going to work cohesively together. You could choose a colour as your theme for your collage. You could, you know, pick a colour blue and just try and sort of pull together as many blue elements as you can. So really have a think carefully about, you know, how you want to do this. Look on Pinterest as well, search the internet for some tips and guidelines. So do your research before you start gluing things down. The other thing that I think is important as well is sort of making your page cohesive. So for instance, whatever I put in my top left-hand corner, I'll try and find something similar to put in the bottom right. And I'll just try and sort of balance my page out so that my eye follows the page around. So what I should do is I should put this onto fast forward, and you know, just whilst I sort of, you know, pull out some papers and try and sort of put a plan together, and then I'll come back before I glue things down. Now I'm just pulling out various pieces of paper here and I'm just auditioning where they might go on the page. I start off with some of that ledger paper. Then I pull out a few of the other elements, and I'm just placing things around just to sort of, you know, try and sort of figure out what looks good together. Now you'll see in a minute I pull out some of the postage stamps and I start to sort of play with the more colourful elements, and it's not long before I realise that it's better to focus on the background first and then add the smaller detail at a later stage. So in a minute you'll see that I do away with the postage stamps and the butterflies, and I just sort of concentrate on putting the actual background together so that I can layer the rest of the bits and pieces on top. Now you can see that I'm tearing pieces as I go along as well, just so that I've got a good feel for what fits where. There we go, just chopping things down so that I've got them in smaller pieces, and you know, I can decide whether I want them or whether they're going to look right or not. And it really is just trial and error. You know, this is the most important part. Take your time with this, because you know, once it's glued down you can't do anything about it. So really sort of play around with your composition. Now I've decided that as a base layer, that looks fairly cohesive to me. So I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to take a photograph of it just in case I forget where everything is positioned. And I'm just going to glue this down with some matte medium. And as soon as I've done that, I'll be back. Wow, that's how I'm looking so far. That's all glued down. And you can see that I'm working on a piece of parchment paper as well, just to catch all the glue, just to make tidying up easier. As I added each piece as well, I just used a credit card just to smooth out and stop any wrinkles forming. I've given this a quick dry with my heat gun, and so what I want to do now is just tear around the edges again, and you need to make sure that it's dry before you do this, otherwise it's just not very easy to tear. So I'm going to go all the way around the edges, And once I've done that, I'll be back. So that's how we're looking at the moment. And now we need to just build the next layer onto the page. And I just already love the way that looks. So I've got a bundle of things now. I've put all of the sheet music and the ledger paper away just to sort of try and narrow down all the bits and pieces. So I've got a few bits and pieces here. And so we've just got to try and sort of add some colour and some interest to the page. And it really is just trial and error. So let's have a play and see what we can come up with. I don't like the way that I've torn the top off that, although I suppose it could go at the top there. It's too big for the whole lot. So let's just tear off Salut and see. I'm tearing the pieces as I go along as well, just so that I've got a better idea as to how it's going to look when it's all down. So right, there we go. So we might have Salut there. I think I would quite like to have the bird as my focal image. So sweet music and the bird as its perch, like that. I think as the focal image to the page. Let's have a look. Let's play around with that and centralize it. So that's absolutely fine. So we could maybe have that. I wanted to have this address in here somewhere. Not sure where I want that to go. That's too big. The butterfly is too big. I'd like to have that in here somewhere. Quite like that address as well. And I wanted some of these stamps and butterflies. Let's have a look. We could have a butterfly down here. But then I wanted a butterfly there. That's going to have to go. That's not going to work. I wanted some postage stamps as well. Let's have a look. I wanted that address in here somewhere. Perhaps we could have a postage stamp on there, like that. I quite like that Paris as well. Perhaps I could have that as my focal instead of sweet music. We'll have a play around with that. And it is just a case of fiddling around until you are happy with your layout. Now you see that looks quite balanced to me. That looks too small. It looks as if it needs something bigger in that area there. And I just really like how that looks. So I'm going to fiddle around with this. And as soon as I'm happy with the layout, and take your time doing this because, you know, once you've glued it down, that's it. So, you know, take as much time as you need sort of playing around with your composition, because that really is the most important part. So I'm going to have a play. And as soon as I'm happy with my layout, I'll take a photograph and I'll come back. Now I've continued to play around and this is my final layout. I'm happy with that. I just love how that looks, and I want to ink around the edge of these components, and I've decided rather than using vintage photo, I want it more of a Parisian theme, and I'm going to ink it with the iced spruce distress oxide instead, so that it's got that grey tinge. Let's just try it and see if that's going to work. Sort of French boutique style. Let's have a look and see. I just feel that it needs something, but I don't know, the brown just, I don't think would do it for me. You see, I just love that because it's got, the writing is grey. I think that's going to work. So I'm going to go around the edges of all these pieces, glue it down, and then I'll come back. So this is my page. It's all finished. I've inked around the edges of the torn pieces of paper in the background as well. So all done. But before I glue it into my journal, I just want to show you. Let me just see that I've got both in frame. Bear with me. I'm just going to lift the camera up a bit. I just wanted to put the nature page I did side by side. You can see that I'm developing my own style style as far as collage is concerned. You know, both different pages with completely different elements, but you can tell that they've been done by me, and I just absolutely love that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this in, and I'll be back when it's in my journal and give you some close-ups at the end. So here's my page all neatly glued into my journal. I just think they always look so much more finished once they're inside the journal. What do you think? So I look forward to seeing what everybody else decides to do with this week's prompt, collage. As I say, sort of, you know, plan, have a real think about what theme you want to go for, and pull out all your bits and pieces. And I hope you like what I created here. If you did, I'd really appreciate it, as always, if you would give me a thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comments below. So take care, everyone, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.